Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Asia session. All right, we have a bot trade. Decided to enter the breakout of the pre-Tokyo range, so we'll see how that works. Corporate's kind of doing the same thing. And again, I would have thought to do this. Right, let me just adjust a few things and then we'll see who's in chat. I did have a little bit of a sleep, so I'm just kind of waking up. Right, that looks a little bit better. Now I'm going to try the copper breakout, but I do have a bot that does that. However, I'm going to switch that off. And I'm just going to be doing a manual trade. Emmanuel trade. All right, there we go. So, what's happening in regards to the value areas? The MGC is opening above value. You can see the blue lines here. And yet again, we tagged that 4,000 level, tried to go underneath it, reclaimed it, and since then we haven't actually been back there. So I would say that the 4,000 level for now is a pretty supportive price. And seeing that we're trying to break outside of the pre-Tokyo range, which is this blue rectangle, it's not a bad idea to try going with that idea that 4,000 was supportive, therefore we're going to continue going higher. But just to see what's going on higher time frames. So here's the view on the daily chart. So it's a range, right? Every time we tag 4,000, we come back up. Tag 4,000, we come back up. Weekly. Weekly doesn't necessarily have any relevant levels. I suppose there was a bit of a liquidity sweep from the originating area all the way from October, November 2025. That's where we are right now. So in a very large time frame, we're sort of at support levels. When it comes to gamma levels, we don't really have anything super strong here. The strongest level really is 4,100. And we have the exhaustion of the Asia range to the upside sitting all the way just underneath that. So we'll see if they can actually do something with the breakout. If not, that's fine. We still have copper, and is copper going to be correlating with gold? I don't know. Remains to be seen. Copper is actually coming into some larger time frame supplies. Every time copper sniffs out the all-time high, they do tend to want to go the opposite way. So they kind of smash through the all-time high and then they sell off massively. So that's definitely a risk. So we'll see. Let's say hi to people in chat. Gold, very small range. Yeah. Well, again, if it's a super small range, easier to break out of, right? Just gonna have a look at the output. And I'm still waking up, by the way, because I only had like a 3-hour nap, and after this I'm gonna go back to sleep. But yeah, we're still having a heat wave. They're doing any sort of streaming and the lights are on and the studio is like getting hotter with the computers and the lights. It's just not very feasible. So I'm gonna continue with the Tokyo session hours until we get some cooler weather. Am I in a trade? I'm in 2 trades, yes. So the bots have done a long breakout trade from the pre-Tokyo range. And I'm doing a long copper trade. Kind of similar, but different. We're gonna see what happens there. I'm just realizing now I don't have bookmap open. So I'm gonna do that. Oops, I'll do that. Okay. Okay, just some bit of spinning on the hard disk here. Rod is saying, "Hey D, hope you had a great week." Yeah, I mean it's starting off fine. If you're on my Instagram, you'll know. Had a pretty decent Monday. Tuesday was sort of a base hit day, so across all accounts I made about 2.5K. Not massive, but you know, good enough. Dow says, in the US it's also insane heat, like in hell. Yeah, you want hell? Come to the UK where the humidity is high. Yeah, I don't know, I think everybody's having a heat wave. Europe, United States, Canada, I think even. Somebody from Canada told me they're having some unprecedented heat as well. Alright, let's wait until bookmap loads a bit. Delta is mildly positive. They're trying. This is interesting. So I have gold set to the extended order book, right? And like normally when I do that, it sort of populates way more. So is this summer trading? Because it should be, you know, more participation, but let me see. Yeah, because crude oil, same thing, extended order book, right? Loads of prices. Copper doesn't surprise me too much because it's generally a thin product, but yeah, it's maybe we're coming into summer price action, I don't know. Certainly not yesterday for the CPI, but I mean at some point it's gonna slow down, right? I'm a little bit shocked that we've had this amount of movement in July. Alright, let's see. Kelly said good evening. BDJ says hello, fellow stalkers. Market stalkers, dude. Market stalkers. We're not just stalkers. Come on. Eloise is here as well. Drew's 69 Malibu, Initial Maverick, Adam Blue, Coach Hoop. Always good to see you. Gerardo. Rich. Hey, yes. Rich, I'm actually feeling great. Yeah. I've had quite a bit of energy. Rod says not New Zealand, so not hot. Can I pop to can I pop over to New Zealand? Because that would be very nice. I'm not actually a huge fan of hot weather. Like, you know how people are like, oh, it's summer, let's go to Spain, let's go. Like, to me, that's... I like moderate climates. It's like not too hot, not too cold. Probably why I chose UK. Rich has a question. So D, when copper is above all the gamma and GEX levels, is it more likely to fall back to those levels? No, quite the opposite. I don't know what you are referencing, but I can see that we do have some GEX levels here, right? So we have 635 and we have 640. Now the way I do GEX levels is to basically have a look at the anomalies in the Greeks. And then I basically find some levels that either have high open interest and low implied volatility, or high open interest, high implied volatility, or any combination of those three conditions. And they become my areas of interest. Now, obviously with copper and with gold, we don't really have anything to bounce off of those levels. So those are always more challenging. But if you have a day when copper just screams to one side away from it, like we did for the CPI yesterday, this was all CPI, moving away from the end of day levels usually means an outlier day. It means that we pushed very strongly away from the levels that were there the night before. And to me, every time that happens, it's usually a sign of a single direction day. So I wouldn't necessarily fight that, right? Now, copper is generally a fade me kind of product, which you can see if I go back in time. You can see that it had a failed auction, which again is kind of unusual on a CPI day. Sometimes CPI days bring single trends and then it just kind of carries on. So I was actually on some of this. Let's switch on the markers so I can show you what trades I took yesterday. Here we go. So this was one of the losing trades. And this was a bot trade. So the bot tried to go into effectively an Asia swipe and a reversal, but that went nowhere. Then I decided to enter a long because I kind of saw that it was consolidating right at the top of Asia. And usually when you see that, the typical liquidity sweep and then a complete rotation and reversal, it's less likely because those events are usually quick, right? When they're not quick and when the price sort of gets stuck near the high, it's kind of like on the profile when you're building structure, and therefore you're looking for more of a continuation trade. Does that make sense? So I took that and I sat through the CPI with a pretty generous stop, which I don't mind doing because I've built up quite a nice lot of balances in my current fundeds. And then I just waited until what I call the post and white cut time zone. Now, Rich, you will know what I mean by that. Why? Because at that point, copper and a whole bunch of other commodities have a penchant to turn around. It's a dangerous time of day for continuations. And I was actually talking to Eloisa. She was actually looking at a failed auction, and I thought to myself, well, it's CPI, you know, I've gotten stung trying to fade copper on CPI days. So I said, well, you know, just be careful because, you know, CPI day, and, you know, the reaction was kind of to the upside. But they still went into failed auction, completely rotated to the opposite side. And that was pretty much it. So, yeah. But just because something moves away from end-of-day GEX levels, it absolutely does not mean that they are coming back. Quite the opposite. It means a very, very strong trend. And therefore, you need to be careful maybe not to fade that, unless you have a super, super good reason to do so. Ooh, Rich says that FYI outside NYC 99 tomorrow. Yeah, that's hot. I mean, you know, New York does get, like, you guys get really hot summers and really cold winters as well. Because where I'm from, which is kind of like Mediterranean, we get hot summers and kind of mildish winters. So it's not like super freezing. But New York gets like the extreme of both. I think Chicago does as well, doesn't it? Because I know it's bloody cold when the winter set in. Would made me come back. Hyphen says I'm north of Toronto, 30 plus Celsius most days, upwards of 70% humidity. That's exactly what we've been having here. The other day it was 33 degrees, because I know centigrade more than I know Fahrenheit. But that's about what, 90, 95, 93, something like that. And it was like 84% humidity. So I thought to myself, well, if it gets any more humid, we're just going to drown because it's disgusting. It's that Florida heat as well, because Florida is very swampy. So therefore, I remember when I was going there to do songwriting with Vader Nobles, who was one of Rihanna's first writers, and he also worked on, actually he produced and wrote Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. So back in the day I met him through MySpace, and he invited me to do some songwriting, so we did, you know, 3 or 4 songs together, and that was my first time kind of experiencing Florida. Oh my god, I remember, and Florida, it's like such a weird place, because, you know, I came from London where everybody's like go go go, like you have to be there at a certain time, you know. It's Florida is all like super relaxed. So he was like, hey, I'm gonna come and get you around, you know, midday. So, you know, be ready. So I got ready, me and my colleague, and we're sitting in the lobby, you know, we're waiting. It's 12 o'clock, 1, 2. I tried calling him, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm just around the corner. Just around I'm coming, you know. And in the end, he didn't turn up until 4 p.m. So that happened on the first day. Happened on the second day, happened on the third day. So by the fourth day, he goes, yeah, be ready at midday. So me and my songwriter friend, we got in our swimming suits, went by the pool, and waited. And again, he didn't turn up. That day he didn't turn up till like 7 p.m. But yeah, we got a nice tan going. So that was nice. It's very relaxed, like super different than what I was used to. And you're sitting by the pool, and I remember having my shades on. The shades just wouldn't stay on because it was like so humid and sweaty. They were just like sliding off of my face constantly. And it's very much like that in London when it gets super hot. It's not comfortable. And even though the heat is not that high, technically, in theory, because we're so up north and because of the high humidity, it's very uncomfortable, and it's just not normal for this area. Now, whenever I'm doing live streams, I obviously cannot do the air conditioning, and then during the day, if I was to do like a 90-minute stream, about 30 minutes into it, I just can't breathe. Like it gets to like, never mind 30 degrees, it gets to like 40 degrees because I've got the lights, I've got the computers, I've got, you know, a whole bunch of stuff, Bob over there radiating heat, and it just gets unbearable. It's disgusting. Jerry? Is it Jerry? Yeah. I thought I heard you mention a trading bot more than once. If so, how reliable are trading bots, and are they mainstream bots people are using? Can I research further? So here's the thing. I don't use anybody else's bots. They are all mine. They're based on my models, and they are not for sale. They will never be commercially available because obviously they're super valuable to me. And the only way that we've ever done anything with the bots was to lease them to institutions. But if you're expecting to purchase a commercial bot for like 99 bucks and then you don't have a good idea of what that bot does, you won't have the expertise or the knowledge to switch it off when the market conditions are not favorable for that bot. So I talk about bots, but I actually have, I'll show you how many I've got. Now these are different instances. We are building a copy trader. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. They don't all run at the same time of day. They all run for different parts of the day, right? And on very different products. Some of them run on MGC, some of them run on crude oil, some of them run on copper. So to answer your question, can you just buy a bot and expect that that's going to be the solution to being consistent? No, because you still need to know which bot to switch on. Like for example, I have the exhaustion fade bot, but that one is not on, right? Why? Because the range is too small. So what am I going to be fading? Nothing. So, you know, I'm using my trading expertise to figure out which of the bots I should be switching on. And that's the job of a quant strategist, right? So it's not as simple as buy a bot, switch it on, let it go. Anytime an institution leases an algorithm from another company, they have quant strategists that will decide whether to run the bot or not. And if they decide that it's not favorable conditions, it's up to them to switch it off, not me, the provider, okay? And for those reasons, and obviously the cost is quite prohibitive because the leasing of the algorithms to institutions usually goes between 15 to 40,000 pounds just for 1 month. And obviously you expect the bot to generate at the very minimum 50 grand. So if it doesn't, then the institutions are going to be like, thank you, but it's a no. So you always have to be tweaking things, making sure that they're running properly, and yeah, it's not for the just for like random retail communities. Like you buy it and now you run a whole bunch of bots that you bought, and you can sit on the beach smoking spliff. It's not that kind of activity. It's still a lot of work, you know. For me, I'm always watching the bots, what they're doing, making sure that if they start to underperform, that I switch that bot off after about 3 days. And then I will run tests and to see whether there was something else that could have been done. And if not, maybe it's just not the time for the bot. So a lot more work than people imagine. And obviously for me, these are all just my strategies that I know very well and that I've traded since 2013 intraday. So all I've done is just to translate some of the things that I do manually anyways, just to kind of replace that portion of the day. Like for example, if I'm asleep, once we get to cooler weather, I'm not going to be sitting here during the Tokyo session, but I will be switching on the bots and they will trade for me. And in fact, when I'm not doing a live stream and I am sleeping like last night, the bots did a trade. Now, if you see how the Asia session was last night, it was okay, but it wasn't exactly a massively big trending move, right? So the bot kind of caught a piece of the puzzle here. Unfortunately, by the time that we got to 6 a.m., that's when the breakout bot is supposed to stop, and it would just cut off the it's a time stop gain sort of thing. So it didn't make too much. It only made like maybe about 200 per account, and then the rest of it was me doing it manually. And actually I had to bail the bot out because the copper bot decided to go into an Asia sweep in a reverse, and I could see that that's not going to happen, but I don't meddle into it. So if a bot gets smacked in the face, I will just wait for the next opportunity and figure out what I want to do. So again, it's not just like, oh, let it run. It's yeah. Yeah, Louisa says something's wrong with data in gold. I can see tons of levels. Yeah, it's probably either some kind of a compression, maybe even hedging pressure. You know, hedging pressure can go both ways. They can hedge it so much that they are in a very tight range, but then once they clear that, all hell breaks loose. That can happen in lower liquidity times as well. Jerry says, I already have a reliable trading strategy, but just curious about the bots trading. I mean, you could always commission a developer, you know, if you think it's mechanical enough. Because, listen, I have some strategies that are just not really codable because they're too discretionary and they rely on market profile and average session ranges and the time of day and, you know, particular type of volume coming in on bookmap. That's not codable, that's very discretionary. But, you know, some things like, for example, breakout from the pre-Tokyo range. I know what I'm looking for there. We're just looking for the excursion from the pre-Tokyo range with enough volume that indicates institutional volume so that we can, you know, actually get some juice out of it. And in this case, if I go to a 5-minute time frame, which is what I use, you will see that when we... Let me remove my face for a second here. So when we were breaking out of the pre-Tokyo range, this rolling volume, moving average volume, this is Blahtech better volumes, by the way. The rolling volume started to rise, the volume started to rise above the moving average, right? But this one was the defining factor because if you look at the previous candles, it was much, much bigger than all of them. Now, sometimes that can be an exhaustion bar, but in this case, I don't think it was. Primarily because I would want to see more of a sticky-outy event if it is an exhaustion bar. Like, for example, this one. It's like, what does that look like? The market flipping you off, right? So when the market is flipping us off, that's an exhaustion volume bar. When the market is more steady, you know, the volume is kind of rising slower, that tends to be true volume and a true breakout. Alright, so let's get some P&L tracking over here. So yeah, that's what I use for my decisions on whether to have a bot trigger the trade or not. Alright, so we're getting into that time when it all gets a bit jumpy, so this is pretty dangerous. Half an hour before Shanghai opens. This could get interesting. We're not messing with the stops. We're not trailing. We're not doing anything. If we get stung, we get stung. Like maybe if I'm running you know, super short scalp, that could be the time to maybe trail something. But because most of my trades bank on being in the market for 2 to 4 hours, I try not to mess with stops, because I've learned the hard way that that's not something that works for me. So, yeah. Hyphen says, my family's from Jamaica and high 30 Celsius is common, but no humidity. Yeah, listen, where I come from, 42 is common in the summer, but it's dry. It's like 30%. That's fine. You know, I can handle that. It is the humidity that kills us over here. Wilson is gold says, hi, I'm new to your channel. Welcome. Can you explain the bot? You're a great coder. I'm a decent coder. You know, let's keep it realistic. There are better coders than me. I'm very functional though. So again, I have 8 different things happening. So for this time of the day, I usually have 2 bots. One of them, so basically, well, 3, but they're on different products. So the pre-Tokyo breakout strategy is kind of self-explanatory. So you take the pre-Tokyo range, which are these blue boxes that I placed here just to, you know, have some sort of a visual reference. And then you look for enough volume upon the breakout to signify more institutional volume, and that it's not just like one single massive pop and then nothing, because that would be an exhaustion volume bar. And then you enter. The stops that I use are scaled to the volatility of the product. And then I just look for roughly 2R or a time stop. So whichever one comes first. So it's either price or time. The second one, which I'm not running right now, is the exhaustion fade. And that means you need to have, first and foremost, you need to have a range that is bigger. So not whatever this was. So certainly not a range of barely like 94 ticks on a product that is currently moving 670 ticks on average. So once the ranges are bigger, you can then look for, again, these are the trades that I've done manually many times. You look for the exhaustion at the edges of the pre-Tokyo range. And then you're looking for a full rotation through to the other way and a liquidity sweep on the other side. So that is something that has not, like in tight pre-Tokyo ranges, that just doesn't work. So I switched that bot off and we're not running that bot at the moment. If we get to maybe September, October, when the pre-Tokyo range starts expanding again, we can switch it back on. And for copper, I only have one because copper is not really, like, you can do the exhaustion move, but it's more likely to do it at the handoff between Shanghai and London. And that's when I have another bot called the Shanghai Power Hour Fade. So the final hour of Shanghai, you're basically looking for a reversal. So that's another bot. That's the one that lost yesterday, actually. This one. That's what it was trying to do, right? Yeah. It's all based on strategies that I already teach in the Pro Development Program. It's all based on... I even have a failed auction bot on crude oil for the NYMEX session. What else do I have? I have the auction fade bot, which in this situation is called initial balance extension fade in the pre-NYMEX, and it banks on London extending the initial balance quite a bit. There is a moth that has joined us. Go away, moth. Ridiculous. have a friend. I'm not lonely anymore. I have a friend. Getting to the rollover in gold. Is it gonna roll? Is it gonna roll already? I mean, we've barely been in August for like a hot minute. See, this is great when you have Hoop in chat, because he's like, yeah, I'll give you all the rollover deets. I mean, if it does roll, it's probably gonna roll in December, right? Because gold is a bit weird that way. Right, so copper is making a move. Gold kind of lagging behind, although still holding above pre-Tokyo range. So not much to do here. Do I look at a 1 hour supply and demand or just higher time frames? For me, I know that Aaron looks at 1 hour for the liquidity sweeps, but for what I'm doing, the 1 hour is either too big or not big enough. So I prefer 30 minutes because I'm a core profile trader. If I'm like looking at it just from a discretionary trading, sitting down, clicking buttons point of view. But when I'm looking at large time frames, to me the large time frame really starts from 4 hour time frames, and then I will typically look at 4 hours daily and weekly, sometimes even monthly, especially if we're coming into the end of the month. Then I'll be like, well, let's see what we've got. And you can discern quite a lot of things from the composition of the candle on those large time frames. I'm sorry, this moth is like really bothering me. It's like, it's a pretty, like, it's a massive moth. And I'm not, like, I don't care about them, it's just, it's very distracting because you're just gonna, turns out. Where was I? See? It makes me lose my train of thought. So yeah, larger time frames for me, 4 hour daily, weekly, and I will typically do so by analyzing supply and demand first and foremost, then analyzing the composition of the candles. So right now there's no reversals, right? But we are coming into an area of a pretty massive supply. Like, we're not expecting to trade from that, but it is a good sort of overview. You can see that there was a demand here, very, very compressed distance between the supply and demand. And you can see that we kept getting buying wicks, buying wicks, buying wicks. So if you then kind of drill deeper into it with like gamma levels and profile and average ranges, it starts to kind of provide a pretty decent picture of what they're trying to do. So on the daily time frame, there is a supply here, but it's not originating supply. Why do I say that? Because we have a bigger one up here, which is where this last sort of drop came from. And I have my own way of figuring out the true swing extremes. I call them Q points. That stands for quartile points, and it's kind of like fibs but much simpler. I literally just take the high and the low and divide them in equal parts of 4. So therefore, to me, instead of going 50%, 76.2, I could never remember those, so I just went Q high, Q low, the end. My brain needs simplicity sometimes, not all the time, because I'm considered somebody who's got a bit of more of a fancy way of doing things, but I sometimes want to simplify things. And if I like, for example, the whole accumulation, markups, distribution, liquidation, I could never remember it, and I remember doing a lecture on it, and I kept confusing or kept mispronouncing reaccumulation and redistribution and vice versa. Like, I was mixing up the two. And then I thought to myself, this is annoying. How can I make this better for me and for everybody else that I'm teaching? I know, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. And, you know, to me, that was a much easier way to classify whether we're in accumulation, markup, distribution, or liquidation. So, you know, it's just me being a bit of a simpleton there. But yeah, so let's drop down to the 4-hour time frame, knowing that the daily Q high, the swing extreme, is pretty close. We still have a ways to go. Let me just see how many days we are. Days to load. Yeah, that's not helping. Days to load. Here we go. See, Ninja has this quirk where whenever you're like hopping through the time frames, it like only loads 5 days, and it actually messed up a couple of my algorithms because I use kind of a rolling average of several sessions to figure out the volatility of the product. And when that's 5, I obviously don't have 10 days to even it out. So it starts to even out the last 5 days, and then it gives me the wrong number. And then I figured out a way to hack into this so that it always loads 60 days, or at least 30. But sometimes as I'm kind of hopping through the time frames, it defaults back to 5, and it's very annoying, right? So yeah, on the 4-hour time frame, you'll see that we have an originating supply a little bit further up. So for now, there's not too much to be worried about. This is just a slowdown for the final part of electronic trading yesterday. And now we're looking for some more information in regards to the price discovery that happens during Tokyo and Shanghai. And that's what gives you an idea of what they're trying to do today. That's why the Asia high, Asia low are incredibly important for any sort of analysis. And if you've been on my Market Stalkers website recently, you know that we've done a little bit of a lot of work on it. So now, as an introduction to the method, there is a worksheet that I take you through. Well worth going through it. I don't have all of the stuff that I give to people in the actual program. Why? Because you need to know concepts that at the point of first contact with me, you won't have. So I've just simplified it to use things like yesterday's high and low, session high and low, and then also Asia high and low. And then it gives you a pretty decent outlook of what we're looking for. Right, Shanghai is going to be opening in 15 minutes. We still haven't had the proper Shanghai shakeout, so right now we're tagging the middle of the initial bounce for Tokyo. That's nothing unusual. But copper is doing okay. I would say that copper looks more promising here than this gold. Gold is kind of struggling, and maybe it is because of the rollover, like Hoop says, it's probably rolling. Asif says, oh, Asifly. I don't know. I'm probably butchering your name. I'm so sorry. It says, looking good, D. Thank you. A bit sleepy, but alright. Please guide which one to choose, Bookmap or ATAS. I mean, they are both very good platforms. I think it would be probably a matter of preference. Actually, Eloisa is using Deep Dome from Deep Charts. Now that one looks very interesting to me. So I'm definitely gonna, like, Eloisa, I am gonna sit with you on Friday. Whenever you have time, maybe even Thursday, but Thursday I have a couple of meetings to get to, so I need to like organize myself. But yeah, so I want to see what that looks like. And there are a few options for heat maps out there. Now, Bookmap is one of the more visible ones, I suppose. But again, ATAS is a great company. Whatever really resonates with you. So, you know, try them. Some people love footprint. I can't handle footprint charts at all. And I think it's because it's got like too many numbers to it. Every time I see loads of like, that's probably why I don't like timing sales as well, because it's all like bunched up numbers. And you're like, oh, what am I supposed to be reading here? And I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, you know, things like the zero delta areas, but it's just way too granular for me. I'm always like, oh God, just give me a heat map. Just no numbers. Give me like cartoons, right? That's what I want. Just cartoonish things with pretty colors that I can stare at, and my creative music brain is then appeased and it can function properly. Mothra has returned. Yeah, no, I always have one these days. We always have a friend. Where's it gone now? It's disappeared. I was actually chatting to Doom on Twitter, because he said he has a couple of spiders in his office. So do I. I have a couple of daddy long legs. So one of them has grown, and I gave them names. So one of them, this one, the smaller ones is Mortimer, but the big boy is named Trevor. So, however, if they ever come near me, that's like, no mate, you stay in your corner. You can live there. As soon as you start encroaching on my living space, you have to go. Moths are just a bit annoying, but they're kind of a bit spaz, right? And they're just like, they just make me laugh. Some people are really freaked out by them. I'm not. I just find them a bit annoying. So yeah. So we gotta live and let live, right? Do I still look for reversal in oil on London close during the New York session? So, Johnny, here's the thing. That one is very dependent on the discretionary read of what the auction has done that day. If you have a short auction that just kind of keeps going and going and going all day, and then you also get like a couple of sets of single prints to the downside, traditionally that's not a day to go long. Because usually it's a liquidation of some sort, and in crude oil, liquidations to the short side are relentless. Sorry, I need to put my legs down because I'm sitting cross-legged and my legs are falling asleep. But if you have, like, let's say a more range-bound day, or we've had a limited auction day to the upside and yet Trump didn't say anything that day, then you might be able to say, well, we're building structure, we're building value, and therefore, as you're nearing the settlement, that's the day to do the settlement fade. So it's not like mechanical every day we fade into settlement. It used to be that way, okay? Wind the clock back to maybe, let's say, 2013 or something, 2015 even, and that was the play that everybody was doing. Is this the Shanghai shakeout? It could be it. So if we survive this on gold, that would be a decent indication that the shakeout has ended. And if we don't, we don't. It's fine. We eat up the stop loss. Yeah, so the settlement fades are not that mechanical. They are largely discretionary. So again, huge trending days on crude oil, you probably don't want to go against them, right? And if you do, it's going to be a scalp. It's not going to be, you know, some tasty settlement fade that you can carry over through settlement and then keep it for another couple of hours. So typically those sorts of plays I prefer to do on range-bound days. And then I just aim for like 1 hour multiples. So whatever the scalable volatility stop is for crude oil at the time, I usually take 1 hour out of the settlement fades on crude. Now something like gold and copper, you can actually get quite a bit more for the COMEX settlement, but again, that's also a context weight. If you're going to fade anything into settlement, copper is probably your best bet. So the other products are a little bit more trending. So that becomes a dangerous game. And crude oil has been going on quite a few trending moves because of the Iran and USA conflict. Again, market conditions, right? Is my pre-Tokyo range from 11:30 p.m. to 1 a.m.? It's actually from 11 to 1 a.m. So from Globex Open all the way to the start of Tokyo. And then whenever the highs and lows are created. So I usually just put a box around it. Nothing too elaborate. Trading Nichols says, just joined the stream, but I've been long maybe an hour on copper. Yeah, me too. Yeah, welcome. Great minds think alike. Yeah, we have the same situation, right? So breakout from the pre-Tokyo range. Gold is struggling. It's kind of falling into pre-Tokyo. But if it survives through this Shanghai Open, then we may have something. If it doesn't, again, that gives me information. So, and the information will be that probably the rest of the Tokyo session and Shanghai is going to be more range bound on gold. And that means the next opportunity probably won't come until the end of Shanghai. So, you know, we'll see what copper does. So maybe copper will be the one to bring us a little bit of cash for the Tokyo session. And then the next day trading time zone, the way I do things, will be that final hour of Shanghai. So no multiple attempts during Tokyo, digging a hole. You try 2 or 3 trades, ideally only 2. If you're going to try 3, one of them has to be successful. And typically, in the way I like to teach people, reaching the full target of 2R multiples. Because you put the math on your side, right? And if you can't find 2R multiple trades, it means that your trade location's stuck or your strategy needs tweaking. Because in a properly scaled position to the volatility of the product, you should be able to find 2R multiples relatively easily, right? I'm not talking about you trading nickels. I know that you're quite capable. Just in general, for people who might be new to me today. And if you can't find those, it means that you're either going for trades that are already traversing like most of the day, so you're getting effectively involved at the end of the move. How do you know it's the end of the move? Well, again, statistical averages play a role for a reason. There's a reason why, you know, my methodology is pretty robust, because I use several things and it all gives me information. Am I the only one to do that? No. Every single competent trader that has been doing this for a while, we all have similar ways of looking at the market. Even if we're not using similar concepts, everybody will be looking at ATR or ADR. I have my own twist, ASR, which is a rolling average over whatever active session is going on right now. So go back 10 days. So it's like an ADR, but for a particular part of the day. And then I scale the stops to that number, to that session. So if you're looking at it from that point of view, you should be able to find a 2-hour trade. And if you're not, it means that you're entering too late, or you're entering in the middle of the middle where there's no asymmetry to the opportunity. So you're effectively getting involved in a coin flip. That's not a good thing either. But yeah, copper looks good. And it's got plenty of space. So if you look at these dotted yellow lines, what's that? That's the Asia session range exhaustion. So until we get there, I mean, technically you could increase the target on copper to go all the way there. I don't like doing that because my own system calls for 2-hour multiples. And I also have a time stop. So if we don't, every time you're shooting for more than 2 hours, there has to be more time allocated for that move to happen. I want to go to bed. I don't want to go, to bed with a position open that I've opened and the bots are not actively managing. So I will just stick to 2-hour multiples. So grab the 90 ticks in full copper. But yeah, can it go all the way up to 645? Yeah, it can. Does it mean that I want to squeeze out like every single tick? No, it's not necessary. Look, sometimes I do that, but I just think that we are at the top of the structure on large time frames, and to me that means that we're in a pretty dangerous position on copper because copper likes to fade the moves. And at some point I'm expecting copper to just start throwing up to the opposite side. But for now, we have the breakout from the pre-Tokyo range. It's going well. So we're just sticking to the default part of the strategy. What platform am I using to trade? Well, I've used all of them, but NinjaTrader is the one that we have gone back to. I've been using NinjaTrader probably for like 7-8 years. Before Ninja, I was on MetaTrader because I came from Forex and CFDs 20 years ago. But we actually spent a long time trying to translate our Blahtech indicators into Ninja. And it wasn't really up until recently when they, I say recently, we're talking 2 years, when they moved C# to a new version, and that's where not the newest one, but they kind of moved it off the dinosaur version that they were stuck on for many years. And finally we were able to implement some of our elegant solutions. So we actually have improvements now on a backtest mode. Now I've got the old sort of testing version that I installed last week, but the team has done another improvement to the backtest where now when you switch on the backtest mode it actually hides the candles, so it's a real overview into the past, so you won't see the candles anymore. How cool is that? So I'll show you that. We're also working on a position sync. It's a trade copier that is going to poll stuff in between your multiple accounts, because nobody's done that. Whatever trades copier that I've used, nobody polls the other positions, and I don't know why, because C# is perfectly able to do that. So it's like, what are we doing here, guys? It's like, are we just making subpar systems for the sake of it? And we finally decided about a month ago, when I kept trying to find trade copier that works and none of them do what they're supposed to. So Blahtech is going to do it. Right, Shanghai is open now. Are they going to do something with this gold? They're just kind of... like, if anything, just gold looks very range bound to me. Delta is kind of... it looks like a wave. But yeah, Shanghai should be bringing us a bit more action now, whatever that means. The one on MGC is a bot trade. The one on the right on copper is me trade. Doesn't look like gold wants to go. So we're gonna get smacked on the face. That's fine. There we go. Thank you. So across all of the accounts, we are only down $1,000. Now remember, there's like 8 of them. So that's about 180 to 220, because some of them have different scaling as well. So yeah, just a tiny little scratch. And we'll see where the copper remains above this this level. Because yeah, copper looks massively better. I don't know why. Like recently, copper has been a much smoother trade when it comes to breakouts. Usually, it's a fade instrument, but recently, when it goes on a run, and it's not like it's got like a big trend on the daily chart. Like if we have a look at the daily chart, you will see that it's not like, I suppose this is going up, but it's very messy, right? I wouldn't call that a smooth trend. And yet, these days when it just goes. So, see what happens. Short gold. No. It's now gone into a neutral day type gold. And we have held above 4K. So I'm still long biased gold. The bots obviously wanted to go into a breakout, but I don't know. We have this 40-50 level that was reactive as well. This is from the options chain. So this scans the options chain and then plops the levels on the chart. And the reason why I coded it up is because we have Mentor Q and they do have end of day levels, but I wanted intraday. And I don't know of anybody who was doing intraday levels on commodities. So to me, that was like very useless. So yeah, if they can't break confidently through the 40-50 level, then that would be a very small range Asia exhaustion fade. So basically smacking down into 40-50, maybe slightly beneath it, and then, because it's a negative gamma still, and then bouncing back. So that would be a range. And we've had the range last week as well, remember? So we tried that same trade, breakout. Can't remember what side it was on, but same thing, right? So maybe gold is a bit finicky. So one thing that I would do in the case of gold is to maybe not do Tokyo bots and then maybe try the Shanghai final hour bots because they've been doing pretty well. Those bank on the liquidity sweep above or below Tokyo high or low and then return to VWAP. And those are, again, doing all right. So we couldn't even break below the pre-Tokyo low. Again, this looks rangy to me. No more gold trades. And in fact, I'm going to switch off the breakout. But it can fire twice in a session. So if I don't want it to fire again, I have to switch them off. Let me see. NH Trade says, did you quit Top Step? I suppose, yeah, look, there was nothing, like, people are making, like, such a big deal out of it. They're like, oh, you left Top Step, why did you leave? First of all, it wasn't just me, it was a whole bunch of people that left, and it was because Top Step is going in a certain direction where the rest of us didn't really feel it would be beneficial for us and our brands. It was a business decision. So again, I keep saying I'm still friends with everyone. I'm still in touch with everyone. It's like there's no bad blood or anything. It's just, yeah, it's just they decided that they didn't want overnight programming and they basically offered us a new sort of role that I couldn't see how it was going to work with what I want to do. So that's the whole story. It's not some massively dramatic thing that's happened. It's just, it's not right for me at this time. I can't speak for everybody else, but you know, I have my indicators to do. I'm also working on a pretty exciting new venture, and yeah, there was just not much point staying if it's going to be like that. And listen, if they ever bring out the affiliate program, I will be happy to be with TopStep again in some form, shape, or form, right? But they don't have an affiliate program, so you know, this is the business. It's not like, oh yeah, let's just be nice and promote companies that don't have affiliation. Like you have to have an incentive. None of us runs a charity, right? We are in finance because presumably we all love money, right? So you have to look at it from the survival point of view and from the business perspective as well. And unfortunately, until they decide to, if they ever bring it back, there is no incentive for anyone to promote TopStep. It's just how it is, right? But they're still a good company. They've made some you know, changes that were not seen as beneficial by the community, and they've made some wrong steps as well, but they're not the only ones, right? There's been so many prop firms that have made so many wrong moves. Hey, it was TopStep's turn, right? And the industry is changing. They have to find ways to keep in business, right? We don't want to go back to the times where you had to put your own 5-10K into a brokerage and then lose that, learning all the same things that you would have learned for a fraction of the cost by buying an evaluation. So again, it wasn't some big, you know, oh, Dee, you left TopStep and what happened and what. Nothing happened. It was just not right anymore for where I am at the moment. I got healthier because again, if you're new, you probably don't know, I have a chronic illness as a result of vaccine injury, which completely decimated my health for 5 years. I found new medication in April this year. It brought back my functionality to 80-90%. My brain is back to like 200 miles an hour. Physically, I'm not 100%, but you know, it's good enough. And it just, you know, I kind of woke up from my chronic illness problems, and I just thought to myself, why am I not like doing my stuff? Like what happened there? And I know why, because I was so sick that I couldn't do it. I just slept most of the day. So I would do the stream, then go have a nap, then do another stream for the main broadcast, then pass out for the night. Maybe do 2 or 3 trades in a day, right? And even then, I got into a live account twice with TopStep, and it's like, that had its own issues, because I wanted to translate some of the bots that I had. Sadly, in the live accounts, you can't do bots, because their API key is not enabled for it. So yeah, there were like little kind of niggly things that were bothering me. And once I got healthy, I decided that I want to go back to my stuff, which is software development through Blahtech, which is my own channel, doing whatever I want to do, promoting whoever I want to promote, talking about whatever platform I want to talk about. So that was hugely limiting as well, that you only had to talk about TopStep X. And for me, I think there are many other platforms like DeepChart, like Transpider, like, you know, MentorQ, not platform, but a service, right? Like, so many things that are out there and growing. AI workflows, AI tools that you can use to make yourself into a more efficient trader. None of that was possible. I couldn't even show bookmap. Every time I showed bookmap, I got in trouble, right? So it's like, so yeah. So nothing's happened. Nothing groundbreakingly, you know, everybody's still friends. It's just not a good fit at this point. Dow says, better tell us some inspiring stories how you were struggling and blowing up and then flipped into a green trader. You see, this is the thing. When I started 20 years ago, you couldn't afford to do that, man. You had to stay on a demo until you had a good idea of what you were doing. And then you would go live with your own money. And then maybe if you wanted to go prop, you still had to like shell out a ton of cash. But it wasn't like today where blowing up is seen as some sort of, I don't know, rite of passage of some weird shit or whatever. Like, I don't know. So these days, you have people who are like, oh, I blew up like 100 combines. It's like, that shouldn't be a flex. That's a problem. Yeah, but you know, I really want that payout. Great, but you're causing expense to yourself, and yet you're not justifying it through any payouts, because a lot of these people who do that, they have never gotten a payout. So it's like, what are you doing, mate? Like, not being funny, but if you can't, you know, spend 200-300 on an eval and at least get a couple of grand out of it, then you've got the whole math wrong. It's, you know, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So when I started, the game was you practice on a demo, then you start with a very small live account, and you try not blow up. Like, you know, like don't blow up. So I was a swing trader in Forex, so my setups were only appearing every 2 weeks. And I did great. I have videos about that. I have stories. I've talked about it so many times. I managed to grow a small 2K account all the way to 70K in about 9 months. Then I made a mistake and I blew it up. But then I started again from 2K, and then I made £250,000 in 2 years. Or basically from the point of blow up in another sort of year and a half, I managed to get to a 6-figure account. So there was none of this like, oh, tell us how many times you blew up. Yeah, once. That was it. Because you didn't have an option. Like if you blew up at a prop firm, brick and mortar prop firm, you couldn't just get a reset. You would get booted out of the company. So it was a very big risk for you to be super reckless. And if you wanted to buy in, it was going to cost you anywhere from 30 to 50 grand to put down a collateral to actually come back. So you can blow up, but you have two choices. They either kick you to the curb, or you pay them a fuck ton of money to get back in. So what we've got now, you can criticize online prop firms however you want, but they have filled the need to cut down the costs, massively cut down the costs of entry into prop. So I can't give you blow-up stories because it just wasn't what you did back then. And if you did do it, well, then you were a muppet and you probably shouldn't be trading, right? But these days, that's kind of seen as a, you know, oh yeah, I'm blowing up so many things, but I'm getting large payouts. That's the other story, right? You have all of these influencers who are doing some really dodgy shit in the evaluations, and then some of them hit, and then they get max payouts per account that didn't blow up. And it's like, well, slow clap, mate. Yeah. And they call themselves excellent traders. It's like, when I started, that was called a gambler, but, you know, Granny D over here. Times have changed. So I get that. But me telling you stories of blowing up, I can't, because I don't have many of those. It's not very fun. Anytime I got myself into a drawdown, to me it was always like a slow drip until the market conditions come back. It wasn't like, oh yeah, let's just run this entire account into the ground. No. As the account gets slightly less, you reduce the position size, and you try and carry on for as long as you possibly can. And it gets super painful, but it's also a test of your endurance. How long can you go on for? Because obviously the market conditions are not right for whatever you're doing. So you might as well take your time to see when things do come back, or change products, or do something, right? So yeah, I'm really not, keen on the whole blow up a whole bunch of evals, then go on the internet and go, it's so difficult. It's like, well, if it's difficult, it's supposed to be difficult, first and foremost, but second of all, if you're trading for 7 years and you haven't gotten one payout, yeah, you're doing something wrong, for sure. If you're only trading 2 years, 3 years, and you're still struggling, that's a different matter. That's a matter of maybe not being experienced enough yet. But you should still try to use Kolb's experiential learning cycle. You can't just, I see some people on Twitter who are red week after week, month after month, and then you see them do that. And it's like, oh, I've got a great strategy. No, you don't. Your stats and your P&L look terrible. How is that a good strategy? Oh, no, it's me. So it's not a good strategy for you because you can't follow it. Find another strategy, mate. It's don't just go on Twitter and go, oh, look, yeah, I've spent the last 2 months, I've had 2 profitable days, the rest of them are red. Yeah, change your bloody strategy. So that's the one thing I don't get. This is a performance-based business. If you're red 3 out of 5 days in a week, and if you are red 3 out of 4 weeks in a month, go back to the drawing board, because something ain't working. I promise you. That I can promise, that something somewhere is not working. Jane Nichols says, yes, and you and Jay have said avoid the middle of the middle, reminds me to look for that and not go for it. When I think I should risk that, I'm looking too tight on a lower time frame. Yeah. Yeah. So Kelly says, so many people doing that, exactly what you're describing, and most have a cult following. Yeah. Again, the reason why, I'm a smaller channel and why, look, it's not trivial. It's almost 20K people, right? And on Twitter, it's what? 7,000 people. So, it's not oh yeah, but the reason why I don't have much of a following is because, first of all, if I'm going to push a big P&L in somebody's face, I will also try to explain which trades I took. But no, you have some people who are oh yeah, look, I made 250 grand, and then they go using it, and they do it in TradingView, but they find the biggest move on the chart. So instead of showing executions like I'm showing here, right, they go, well, I took a trade from here took a trade all the way from here like that, and then my target was $1 million, and someday I will learn how to use this tool. And there we go. That was my trade. It's yo, kid, where are your execution markers? Yeah. If you took that trade, I don't want to see some stupid marker on the chart. I want to see where you entered, how many times you took to actually enter that trade. It's why are you hiding it? And I tell you why. And that's the thing that gets the clicks, right? Big P&Ls, pushing it in people's faces, and then no execution markers, just, well, that's the trade that I took. And I got 250,000 from Apex. It's brilliant. But how many evals did you blow up in the process? And what are the trades that you haven't shown us? That's the real question. So, but that's what gets views. I don't want to do that, right? So I'm well, okay, so this is what's possible, right? So we have 8 accounts. When I'm down anywhere between 2K up to about 5K. If I'm up anywhere from about 6K up to 16K. just how it is. But I'm also not going to say, well, I'm going to take the max payout, because I never do. I always take about 20% of the overall, whatever is the balance across all the accounts, I will take like 20% of that. Because again, I'm not a young person. I've been doing this for a long time. I have multiple streams of income. And, you know, prop for me is a nice sort of cherry on top. It's not like, oh, I'm living paycheck to paycheck and living on the breadline. So, you know, I really need those 2K to hit the bank account like tomorrow. Whereas some of the younger kids, they're men. So, you know, there's also this whole thing in the community when they see a woman that is not an ug bug, automatically you're like, oh yeah, it shows your tits and stuff. It's like, you first, mate. So, you know, there's also that side of the business where people are a little bit, I don't want to say like sexist, but sexists towards women. Because, you know, if you're in front of the camera and you look a certain way, oh, you immediately suck as a trader. It's like, yeah, you keep telling that to yourself, mate. But, you know, I'm a nerd. I've been coding since 1997, ever since HTML was a thing. I love my job. I love what I do. I will not stoop to the levels of, you know, pushing all of the accounts and how much money I generally make into people's faces. The whole point is to show people that this is what's possible, because I'm running funded accounts that anybody can have access to. It's nothing elitist about it, right? And if you are mindful with your entries, if you are patient, and if you control your emotions at the more difficult times, like for example, when a trade doesn't work out, most people lose the plot. So the superpower is not to lose the plot. But that doesn't give clicks. You know, me being semi-psychopathic when a trade loses, you know, I should be, to get clicks, I should be throwing things around the place. But I really couldn't care less. It's just this one trade out of thousands and thousands of trades that I've done. So once you look at it from that perspective, losing trades stop hurting, but they have to be controlled. If I lose, you know, 60% of one account on one trade, I've got nobody else to blame but myself, because I'll be over leveraged. But again, I come from the old school prop, so therefore you couldn't do that. Like if you tried to risk 50% of your account on one trade, you would also be booted. It doesn't matter whether you won or not. Like if it was a winning trade, it still wouldn't matter, because the risk manager would just be like, pack your things and get the fuck out. And you'd be like, what? But I made money. You'd be like, yeah, but you also risked 50% of whatever we gave you to make that cash. That is absolutely not acceptable, so get the fuck out. And yet these days, so much crap goes for like trading prodigy or whatever else people like to call themselves. You know, I never claim that I'm the best trader, because I'm not. I'm all right, and that's good enough, okay? I am not super accurate on my entries. I'm not trying to be. Maybe sometimes if I'm doing scalps in a really tight range, yeah, I will be more accurate. But I will then shut up. I won't be talking. I'll be looking at bookmap. I'll be concentrating. For these sort of trades, you know, it's a breakout trade that's supposed to last at least another 90 minutes, maybe even a bit longer. There's nothing to do. It's like, I've got my stop in, I've got my target. It's a intraday swing trade, right? So there's nothing to do. For me to sit here and lose my eyes on bookmap, that would be stupid. So what have I got to see? Oh, look, delta is positive and we have consecutive upside bubbles. Where are we holding? We're still holding above the pre-Tokyo range. So what some people do, they then look at bookmap and then they'll be like, let's go as granular as you possibly can, right? To look at every single order that's coming in. Why are you doing that? Like, you literally have that same information on a 30-minute time frame. That's what the time frame charts are for. But I don't know, maybe I'm just odd that way. I'm not obsessed with sniper entries. Because sniper entries, listen, coming from somebody who's been doing this for 20 years, sniper entries will do absolutely nothing for your P&L. All that you're going to do is you're going to stress yourself out. As long as your trade location is ballpark okay, that's all you need. You don't need to nitpick down to the left. You know, I see these people who are like, oh, I found an FVG on a 30-second chart. It's like, okay, now can you repeat that like every single day? And in most cases, it will be a no, right? So I'm like, so what good is that? You're just losing your eyes. And the older you get, that sort of style of trading is going to become really, really exhausting. Really exhausting. It's not sustainable. You burn out. So I don't want to burn out. I want to still be here. So I'm 45 now. I'll be 46 this year. I still want to be trading when I'm 65, 70, 75, 80. Look at Dalton. He's 83. Only now talking about retirement, right? I want to be a Granny D. Proper Granny D. Not jokey Granny D. You know, I want to be here and go, yes, today we're doing the pre-Tokyo breakout trade. And I still want to teach you, and I still want to share my knowledge, and I still want to try and help through my experience however I can. But that doesn't come with clicks, you know. My honesty is something that has always been a problem for people. And I'm honest. I'm not mean. I'm just, you can see by my sarcastic posts on certain prop firms, it's, you have to call it like it is. The prop firms have gotten themselves into a very interesting situation where them farmers have rinsed them out. That's what's happened to the industry. So now they're all scrambling to make sure that their profit margins remain pretty decent, and it's not been an easy year for prop at all. So, unfortunately, that means changes in the industry have to happen. Does that affect us more than them? Oh, absolutely, because nobody's happy with all of the rule changes. But I will always acknowledge that. I will always say, yeah, it sucks, but Apex is still the cheapest. So you're paying for the same product over there. If you want something that is, lack of evaluations, you get straight into it, then Tradeify is your jam. If you want no consistency rules, Top Step and Trade Day are where it's at. I will always tell you exactly like it is. So we've seen what happened with Alpha. I was never sure about Alpha. I looked at them, and first of all, they completely prohibited algorithmic trading. And I have a theory. Hear me out. Stay with me. I have a theory that any firm that has a problem with algorithmic trading that is like coded by the person trading, and it's not a high frequency trading algorithm because those just can't happen at a retail level anyway. I believe that those firms are not good firms, okay? And you can fight me on this, that's fine. But I've just noticed that whenever there's a problem with a firm, it always tends to be the ones who do not allow algorithmic trading. So the question is, what are you afraid of? It's certainly not that the bots are not profitable, because that goes in the favor of the company, right? If you expect that all algorithmic trading is going to fail, there should be no conflict. But clearly some of them think that algorithms are problematic, correct? So why is that? Well, it's because they know there are traders out there like myself and a few others who have managed to translate the things that we've done manually into algorithms. So that means emotional regulation is not going to be a problem. It means that there's going to be consistency there. But it also means that we might rinse them for quite a lot of cash. And that's not what they want to see, right? So I don't know. The reputable firms are the ones who will allow bots to a degree. And those are the ones that, so far, I'm with, that I'm promoting, right? And I said it before, TopStep would be one of them if they had an affiliate program, but they don't. They're still a good company. I just wish that that there was a way, but there isn't. So we've got TradeDay, Tradeify, and Apex at the moment. That's the only three firms that I'm like, okay, Apex has got a lot of stick, but they're no different than others. It's like literally the same nonsense that you see everywhere. They've just gotten a lot more stick because they're so big. That's what it is. But guess what? They have no problem with algorithmic trading as long as it's yours, and as long as it's not a commercial bot, and as long as it's not a high frequency trading algorithm. No problem. So that's my theory. Ray is here as well. Oh my god. Good to see you here, Ray. Doomlord says, great stream. Thank you. Blunt is not necessarily bad. Yeah, see, yeah, I've been told otherwise, unfortunately. Ever since I was like 17, people around me were like, Dee, you need to not have a big mouth. And I'm like, but I want to be honest. And my mom was always like, honesty is not always the best policy. I was like, yeah, whatever, man. And I always kind of got in trouble because I would always tell the truth. And some people love that. Other people find me unbearable. So I know that, you know, you can't please anyone. This is one of those industries where when you're public facing and when you put yourself out there, there's going to be trolls. I'm actually surprised that I don't get more of them, because I used to before Top Step, and even during Top Step as well. I used to get people coming on the stream and going, you suck. And I was like, we all suck sometimes, you know? And it's okay. Nobody beats the market, really. You don't need to. It's called risk-reward ratio, and a good combination between risk-reward and a hit rate. Nobody beats the market. You either have a negative risk-reward and a high hit rate, or you're like me, where I have a medium risk-reward and a medium hit rate. It's like, what's your problem? It's like, you lost a trade. It's like, yeah. Guess what? You will lose trades. Like, I don't know how to break it to you, but there are trades that won't work out. And I used to have so much fun with trolls as well. Some of them, when I had like really fiery hair and stuff, because I had black and red hair for many years, and then before that I had pink hair. So they wouldn't have anything else to say. So they would be like, oh, you look like the stupidest punk with that hair. And I was like, well, at least I've got style. And back then I also had a pierced eyebrow. Pretty sure I had a pierced nose at one point as well. But the eyebrow was the thing. I still have a little scar, actually. Because when I got Leonard, my King Charles Cavalier, who we just lost after almost 14 years, he kept pouring at my eyebrow ring. And then at one point it just started rejecting, and I had to get rid of it. Which was fine, because then about a year after that I went into prop, and I had to like take out things out of my face and look normal. But then when I went back to doing, my stuff, I still had like crazy colors, because it was my way of keeping in touch with kind of the rock star part of me. Now I'm just too old and gray, so now we're going gray and we're rocking with it. So, hey, many young girls are dyeing their hair gray, and I'm gonna have gray highlights naturally. I can't wait until actually properly. I'm in a weird phase now, because it's all like kind of gray this side, but then this side is kind of salt and pepper, so it all looks a little bit strange. And it's probably going to take another couple of years. I don't want to cut my hair, because I absolutely fucking hate short hair. I never know what to do with short hair. I had it in my life twice. And short hair, to me, it requires a lot more maintenance than this, right? Because this, I can just get up, either throw it in a ponytail or just run a bit of a brush through it, and it looks fine. With short hair, And I've got like really weird like cowlicks on the top of my head, so like things are like sticking out, so that doesn't help. But yeah, trolls would have nothing else to say sometimes than insults the way you look. So I'm like, okay, well, let's see your photo, mate. What you look like. They would just go silent. And then somebody once said that I look like another girl from somewhere, but like the Ali. What's the name of that Chinese site? Is it AliExpress or something? Where you get like a whole bunch of suppliers that are like all the same goods, but you can put like your own branding on it. So he was like, oh yeah, you know, you look like AliExpress version of that girl. And I was like, okay, cool. So I ignored him, and then he kept going and he kept going. So I just said, you seem to be very familiar with the AliExpress inventory. You know, I personally prefer to shop at like a little bit more high market place. And then he totally lost it. He was so angry, and then he just the moderator Bruno had to actually kick him out because he started getting abusive because he didn't know what else to say. So it's like, don't mess with a nerd, man. Don't mess with a nerd. We know how to clamp back. Because I've taken that crap all of my life. I was a musician nerd. I was very short. I was always the shortest. And people always used to tease me because in my country where I'm from, the average height of a woman is like 5'7". I'm 5'1". The average height of a man is actually one of the tallest. Serbians are some of the tallest people in Europe. So, you know, men are like frequently 6'2". That's like, you know, normal. So I was an absolute midget in that environment, and I got teased like so much. Alibaba, yes, that's the one. Yeah. Eastern Euro women, yeah, that's right. Although I'm a mix of a whole bunch of stuff, which is why the height is. So I'm part Greek, part Italian, part Turkish, and part Serbian. And if you go back like far enough, there's even like northern India somewhere in there. So it's like a huge mix of things. And as a result, I'm, you know, all of my family is much shorter than that region. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, you know, different genes and stuff. But yeah, so people used to like tease me a lot. And that's why I've got the humor. That's why, because I didn't have the height, right? So females who like look beautiful and whatever, they usually have the height. I don't have the height. So I had to rely on, you know, personality and jokes. Because, you know, when you're that short in that environment, it doesn't matter what your face looks like. Everybody just sees a short ass, and you get like massively downgraded because of that. So yeah, you have to develop, you know, other things apart from the physical stature and looks. All right, so this is still not going anywhere. So we've dipped below 40.50, and now we'll see what they want to do on the return to 40.50. If gold reclaims 40.50, then that would mean it's not really breaking out anyways. But because it tested both sides of the range now, so we've tried to break out, didn't work. We tried to break down, also didn't work. So for now, right? If this carries on until about 4 a.m. my time, which is in another 50 minutes, Asia is done. Like, there's no more opportunities for Asia. So it's going to be a very meh session. I still think copper looks pretty promising because it's still hanging, fighting well above this pre-Tokyo range. It is also trying to maintain the auction above the initial balance. If we can tackle this 640 weaker call wall, which actually has high implied volatility there, we might actually see an acceleration through it, and then we've got something. But it is a slow session. So Tokyo has gotten much slower. And I've noticed this probably in the last, like since about Friday last week, that Tokyo is not nearly as juicy as it normally is. So that could be summer trading kind of stepping in slowly. Ray says, wow, I am Black American. We love short women. Lol. Hey, do you think gold will go for 40.58? I mean, it's possible. Look, if it can't really go much, because this is the CPI candle. So if it cannot go below that CPI candle, and if you've ever watched Jay from Top Step Trade, what he will do, he will actually frame out the entire CPI candle like this, and then he will see whether we are effectively rejecting that range or whether we're building value inside it. That's one way to look at it. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. And if we cannot go outside of it, then you have a very good way of bringing it back to the middle, which would be your target at 40.58, because that would be right dead in the middle of this profile today. But at the moment, you know, nothing's really set in stone. We do have some volume growing to the downside. Let's have a look at the 5-minute chart. Yeah, so far, let me remove my face for a bit. So far, we don't really have an exhaustion candle. This could be a sign that it is kind of trying to go lower. But again, until it goes below this entire CPI candle, I will be a little bit careful with breakout trades at this point. To me, if I was looking for a breakout trade, it would have had to have been right at the point of that pre-Tokyo break. But since we've already tested to the upside, that breaks my rules. When there's a double break, I will typically not take the breakout trades. But yeah, it could happen. I just don't. I don't know. I'm not like feeling the pressure to the downside. I'm just seeing a lot of waffling on the tape. So if you look at what they've done on that run down, some let's move this out of the way. So some big orders popped off. These sort of events, when you see large orders popping off, they're very rarely like continuation trades. Usually you would see like accumulation, or some sort of absorption happening, and then they start throwing up. Whenever they run it down in sort of one candle, and then a bunch of big orders pops off, which you can see on this marker, that tends to be like the stopping point, and then they just start reversing it, or they just hang in that same area. So it's not really telling me that it's like, oh yeah, this is a very bearish tape. It's like, no, it's a waffling tape. They're just waffling. You can even see it in the delta, right? So they were going down, whole bunch of things popped off, then they bounced. Now they're kind of going down, but the delta is not really shaving off too much. They didn't even shave off half of the delta from this post liquidity swipe. So I think it's got a pretty decent probability of going into the range. I'm not going to be trading gold until the morning, but I will stay on this copper, because again, if gold starts to go higher, copper seems to be more reactive to gold going higher, so it pulls it back. It's not that reactive to gold going down, so that means the correlation is probably about, I don't know, maybe about 40-50%. So there is a correlation, but they're not twins. Does that make sense? Ray also says, right, I'm only taking the pullbacks. I'm in at 46 on micros. Probably will get stopped out. 46. I mean, that is above the, if they do continue, 46. Yeah, so I would say you will need a pretty strong push. Again, if I was going into a breakout short, I would want to be in somewhere around 40.50, maybe on a test of 40.50. This is where the options levels are actually pretty sweet, because if you have like the pre-Tokyo breakout, right, but you're not quite sure whether it's going to continue, have a look at what happens on the test of the nearest GEX level. And if they can't even get to the nearest GEX level and you still get a reversal from there on a retest, then that's your trade, right? There's many ways to execute these. And again, now we have an exhaustion of buyers. Doesn't have to mean too much. But then immediately people are fighting again. So they kind of try and smash it lower, and then immediately some buyers are stepping in. So, you know, the whole premise of me going into that breakout, or the bot technically going into a breakout from the pre-Tokyo high break, was that we held that 4K level yet again, right? Yet again. So every time we test the 4K, we cannot maintain underneath it. And every time they reverse it and go higher. So to me, longs would make more sense. But you know, you always have intraday microstructures that you can use for counter trend trades. Here we have average session range, exhaustion point, as well as the previous day's Tokyo value high, right around 40.25. So maybe that's another area for longs. But again, I would only trade that once we get to the final hour of Shanghai, if I'm awake. So there's a very good chance that we get to the value high. When? I don't know, because it's all been a little bit sluggish and non-committal. Dublord says, GC has murdered me on many occasions, me trying to push breakouts of whatever range like I do on NQ. I mean, it can work on gold in certain situations, but I typically like to go in on pullbacks, especially if it's like a major kind of structural break, so you have a high or a low on the daily. If it kind of tries to push outside of it, on gold, more likely on the first try, you're going to get a liquidity sweep. And then, you know, then they kind of gather their thoughts again and composure, and then they push again. But it's a very speculative product, gold now. I've got to say, if I didn't have bots, I would probably be losing my shit every time I traded gold, because it's annoying. For the same reason I don't like NQ, gold is starting to get on my nerves every time I'm in a manual position. If I'm asleep through it, or the bot is doing stuff, I'm not even looking at it, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But if I'm actually making the decisions, it's like, please no. Because it has this like up and down, like one of my colleagues says, up and down like the horse drawers. That's exactly the price action we're talking about. Kind of goes into a breakout, then pulls back, and then goes down, you know, and up and down. It's like, just make up your mind, please. Like, I'm too old for this shit. And gold, I think because of the amount of people from the retail side that are trading it, it's a very speculative price action now. Whereas copper, I feel like people who are still trading copper, they have to be in there. And that's why it's much smoother. You're not going to get trends all the time, but once it decides that it's going to move one way, it carries on for at least like 90 minutes, right? That's what you want. And there's very little drama intra-candle. It's all like pushing. Where are we going? Like if you see a 5-minute time frame on copper that has had a very decisive move, like 7 times out of 10, you're not going to get a complete obliteration of that signal. Whereas on gold and NQ, oh, it means fuck all, basically. You get a nice push out of a level, and you're thinking, right, that's it, especially for breakouts. And then they obliterate it to the opposite side and invalidate the entire breakup. So like, You cunts. Sorry. I know it's a very bad word in America, but over here in Britain, it's one of our favorite words. So, yeah. And it's very liberating to be able to say it. I have a very profane mouth. Can you imagine what I'm like in real life? Because this is me actually being pretty contained. But, you know, I've been a musician and a trader for a long time, and we're not known by politeness. Ray says, okay, cool, I'm stopped out for now. Have you ever looked at the correlation between MGC, USD, JPY? It's crazy. Yeah, it's because, again, gold, especially during Tokyo, so gold is traded by Tokyo Exchange a lot. Like, that's where everybody plows in. And then you also have the Shanghai Exchange that is also trading gold quite a bit. But their main currency is the yen. I actually, when I was still trading Forex like a million years ago, I traded Euro yen and GBP yen a lot, like a lot. I didn't like USD yen because it had a smaller range. And again, I stopped looking at Forex entirely when I went into commodities. There is a correlation there, but to me, it's a little bit overkill with all the fancy stuff that I've got, especially with like gamma levels. Gamma levels in gold function in this way. You have a strong gamma level or a weaker one, they overshoot it, then they reclaim it. That's your signal. And how it gets reclaimed, it's really not that relevant in gold. Because you get, like, candles mean absolutely fuck all, you know. The only time that they make a difference is during liquidity sweeps when you get Tokyo high and low and then it takes it out and reverses. That's a good signal. Anything else, you know, bearish engulfing, harami, like all of that, morning star, evening star. On gold, it just doesn't work. Like, you have to look at the pressure at the point of entry and the reclaim of an options level. And the hedging is so strong in gold. It's strong, like the dealer flows are generally pretty decisive. But in gold, it's like ridiculous. Sometimes what they will do, as they're nearing some of these bigger levels, like today, that's between 4,100 and 4,110. We're nowhere near it. But you will see this like zone, the hedging pressure zone, getting wider and wider. And how can you tell? The closer they get to it, the more like resistance starts to happen, even way ahead of the actual options level getting hit. This happens a lot on gold. I don't see it happening a lot on anything else. It happens a lot on natural gas and on gold. All of the other products, they like to overshoot and then reclaim. But gold, especially when we're going up, I don't know why it's not happening on the way down, but when you're going into a bullish move and you're getting close to like a really strong level, the hedging pressure just starts happening ahead of the level. The amount, like for example, I remember 2 weeks ago we had 4,300. And I had it as a potential level, but then I could see it on the dome that they were just jamming like a bunch of orders already at like 4,200. And I just thought to myself that I don't think they're actually going to get there. Like, there's not enough juice. Like, you're looking at it on the tape, and every time they push, the delta falls off. They push, it falls off. And sure enough, they never made it to 4,300. They rolled it all the way back down, and I think we were back to 4,150 that day in the space of like an hour. It was insane. And it doesn't really happen anywhere else. It's like that's a gold thing. And natural gas when it's moving, but again, Natty has a seasonality to it. Juan says, always nice to see Dee on Top Step. I didn't know you had your own channel. Yeah, I'm surprised how many people didn't know that I had this channel since 2015. One of the reasons why I ended up on Top Step as somebody who had their own show is because I had this channel, right? Obviously, I've been with them since 2015. But I started taking my channel a little bit more seriously during COVID lockdowns. That's when I grew from like 2K up to 15K. And then Hogue called me up and he's like, hey, we're doing this thing. It's like Squawk Radio, but on TV. And I'm like, what? Because they used to have this thing called Squawk Radio. Those of you who have been here before, you will No, because we've talked about it. Hoop was a part of it as well. I was just a guest, but I was a frequent guest, and then Hoop had a show as well. So that's how I know Hoop, because we both traded crude oil, and we used to like chat a whole bunch of stuff and all similar strategies, everything. You know, whoever's traded crude oil, you know how crude oil moves, and it's a very kind of time-based product. So yeah, and when Hogue called me, he said, yeah, we're going to be doing the same thing. You know, do you want to, you know, come try and be a part of it? So I did like just one appearance. And immediately they were like, yeah, come, like, let's do it. So yeah, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I just came out of nowhere and they sort of dragged me off the street and suddenly Dee's on Top Step. There was a lot of history there. I was their first female trader. I was actually the first live account of Top Step X. Don't know how many people even know that. But yeah, the reason why I got that role was because they knew I had personality and that I knew what I'm doing in front of a camera. You know, a lot of the times you get people who are new to the industry, and I see this all the time. They are good traders, but they just sit there and they're like. So I start checking whether my sound is working. You know, there's a lot of times when I'm watching streams and stuff and nobody's talking. And I'm like, it's supposed to be a show. Okay, I get it, you're concentrating, but there's like 3 or 4 people on the stream. It's like, somebody say something. And this is why I like Doomlord. Doomlord is, again, you're so fun to watch. You, is it Terrence? Ted, you know, you just so much fun. So much fun. Mandy is fun in a different way, because I think she's still kind of finding herself. And I think it's almost like better TV when she gets herself into trouble. But it's good TV. You're seeing like the development of the trader who's starting from scratch. You know, some of us who have been doing this for a long time, we're a bit boring. Because we're like, we don't freak out when we get ourselves like a grand down on the day. It's like EVs to scratch, you know, it's nothing. But when you see some of the newer traders, you know, you can see it in their faces. And they're like, oh my God, I just took a big loss. And I'm like, first of all, it's a grand. You'll live. Unfortunately, if it's like, you know, half of the profits that they have in an XFA, that's obviously a problem. So then emotions start cropping up and then you can see it. But some of us who have been on there were like, yeah, whatever, mate. But you've got to take losses. Like the half of the issues that people have in this game is the inability to accept that you're wrong. You will be wrong a lot in this game, and you have to be okay with it. There's no, like, if there's one holy grail, that's it. You will be wrong. Learn to be fine with it. You can even train yourself, right? You can like look at it getting close to your stop if you have a problem with that, and leave it. Let it happen. If it's a control loss, you'll be okay. Like, nothing bad will happen. It's just some numbers on the screen. You're fine. Especially if it's prop, you know? If it was your money, yeah, you could argue that it's a little bit more difficult. Because you get stunk for about 5 grand. You know, 5 grand is a lot of money for a lot of people. So it's like, But prop, how much money did you pay to get that XFA? Or a funded account? What, 200, 300, 400 maybe? It's not that bad. Right, copper showing some signs of life again. Come on, copper. What's that quote? Come on, Dover, move your something else. The old movie. That was even before my time. Doomlord says, speaking of training, it's bedtime for your boy Doom. I'm tired of getting at it underslept. Good night, everyone. Copper to the moon. Good night, Doomlord. Yeah, I'll be joining you soon. I mean, not in your bed, obviously, but yeah. yeah, I'm going to be finishing the stream because obviously copper is going to take a while. I'm going to leave this to run, so I will have a liquidated wall if I, just in case I fall asleep, around 6 a.m. my time, which is in another 2.5 hours. But yeah, sleep well, Doom, and catch you soon. Gold going back up now. I'm in. Do you think you made more money in Forex or commodities? Oh no, commodities, like 100%. Because I went into prop, like I was an institutional prop trader in commodities, and you know, in Forex, realistically, maybe I made $500,000, maybe. But when I started doing well in prop, after all the puzzle pieces kind of started fitting together, that was like 40 grand a month. So it was like nowhere to be seen. And that's after the commission. And my commission was like 20%. This was the old prop for you. So basically they would take 80% and they would give you 20%. That was it. And you couldn't take it like take out the profits willy-nilly. It was always at the end of the month. It was always 20%. Maybe if you did exceptionally well at the end of the year, they would give you a bonus. But no, 100%, there's no, like, no comparison. It was commodities for sure. All right, I think it's time to wind down the stream. I mean, we're kind of sitting at scratch. Again, nothing to do. I'm leaving it in. The next thing with this strategy is just a time-based cutoff for the last hour of Shanghai. So that's the next danger zone where the next sort of reversal can happen. On gold, if it's a true reversal, you really want to see it reclaim 40-50 and basically rotate throughout the entirety of that Asia range. But 40-50 is your first kind of danger zone if they're going to reverse from it. So if they reverse from it, then the second hypothesis that I would have is a pop into this low volume area, because these are single prints, so therefore low volume area. Another short down to this average session range low and the value high at 40.25 when longs are again on the cards. So if I just put down things as kind of zones of interest. And this is kind of the thing that some of my students are tasked to do. Ray, Eloisa, and Joe know this really well. Because Ray, Coach Ray, he was one of mine back in the day. We met in 2019. And I mean, he's a monster trader. I mean, seriously. I only put like 2 things in place for him. And he just suddenly turned everything around. And I was like, okay, well, that never happened before. So, full respect. So yeah, this is how you kind of find your orientation. So this is like almost like an either or, even though I don't like people doing that. If it reclaims, then you probably have more upside. Be careful of VWAP. That's a troublesome area on gold. If they cannot confidently reclaim 40.50, then you have more shorts to 40.25, and then longs maybe to ping in between 40.25 and 40.50. All based on the options and the value areas that we currently have, as well as average ranges and exhaustion points of the same. So for me, a better trade location would obviously be from the exhaustion of the average session range, and then to get most of the move that they've done on the way down as a mean reversion. All of this, like where it is right now, to me it's kind of a no man's land, because it's kind of tagging this CPI candle. But yeah, I don't know, copper is an easier read for me, but there's some potential here. I'm just not going to trade gold until we get probably closer to Shanghai-London handoff. And then I'm going to be looking for the sweeps of either Asia low or Asia high and a reclaim of the same for a rotation down to the nearest VWAP, wherever that is. Right, before I start to cook, because the air conditioning is now dissipated, I'm going to finish the stream leaving copper in. So if you're interested how this ends up, follow me on Instagram because I do post things there. So if we didn't get the target, and I very rarely get the targets because my trades last from 2 to 4 hours, sometimes longer. If you want to see the outcome, then come join me on Insta. I have been a little bit more active there. But I'm going to follow Doom, and I'm going to go get ready for bed so I can get a bit more sleep. Maybe catch up with Hoop first. Hoop, if you're still around, we can jump on a quick call, see what's happening. And I will wish you a good rest of the week. So don't do stupid things on Wednesdays. It's hump day, right? So you want to make sure that you are preserving the profits if you had a good Monday or Tuesday. And if you haven't had a good Monday or Tuesday, you need to try and turn things around. Don't force it. Try to be calm. Have your orientation points. Have your hypotheses, like very, very clear hypotheses. And I will urge you to go to marketstalkers.co.uk to that worksheet. Because even if you don't buy anything or anything, it's like literally just a free lecture of how to come up with a better orientation for the day. It's a session prep, 1-page session prep. So I explained to you how to do it. You can download the sheet, no obligation, no nothing, and see if it helps. And, you know, I'll be here probably on Thursday evening again, which is going to be my Friday night, and you can tell me whether it helps. That's all I have for now. This was the Meta Markets. I'm Marcus D, and I will see you again for the next Tokyo session in a couple of days. That will be on Thursday, so keep your eyes peeled on the live schedule on my channel. That's all I have. Good night, everyone. Take care.